This video is brought to you by Arma, who provides top quality supplements to athletes of all kinds. Riders like Nick Wey, Chad Reed, Jeremy McGrath use them for pre, during, and post-activity applications. Be sure to head to armasport.com and use the code RACERX, that's R-A-C-E-R-X, no spaces, for 20% off your first order. Hey everybody, how's it going? I am Kris Keefer and welcome to another edition of RacerX Films. Something a little bit different today. I grabbed Mark Samuels of SLR Racing and I wanted to ride their team bike. Now, their team bike, the CRF450RX, is built around Big Six and WORCS racing. Obviously, Mark Samuels, multi-time Baja 1000 champion, and he has his own Honda effort out here on the West Coast. So let's explain the West Coast conditions before we get into the bike. Big Six and WORCS racing is faster type of off-road racing. As you know, some guys from back east come out here and they're like, wow, we can't believe the speeds that you guys go for your off-road conditions. So for us out here, it's a lot of fire roads with square edges and rocks, and then they dump you into some nasty canyons and then shoot you out into some motocross tracks. So that is what this Mark Samuels built SLR Honda is wrapped around. So first things first, I was kind of leery to do this test. And you're gonna ask, well, why? The Honda CRF450R and even the RX is not the most pleasant bike to go fast on. It is rigid, it is stiff, it is aggressive. And for me, I'm in my 40s, that's all bad news for me. So even for a racer, racing for a long period of time, 2 hours in length, you want a bike that you can haul ass on for 2 hours. This Honda, for me at least, isn't built around that. So I was like, hey Mark, it's gonna be very difficult to please me because I know the weaknesses of this bike. But he talked me into it. I went out here, pleasantly surprised. So to start this thing off, what did I feel like this thing was different versus a motocross version? Mark and the guys over there, they use the X-Trig offset clamps, 24 offset. So for me, if I was a moto guy, that's what I would go to right away. It calms that down, it leads you into the corner better, and it just basically relaxes the chassis. The next thing they did, they went to a WORCS Chassis Lab top engine mount, and they call it the medium mount, which also relaxes that chassis. And then this engine and ignition is built around twisted development. Jamie over there, you guys hear me a lot preach Jamie and what he can do. Now, when you go into the head, it's not about gaining more horsepower. Of course, you're going to get a little bit of more horsepower with some head work, but also you're going to get a longer pulling power and more control. This is what this bike feels like. And now you map it to the head, you're just getting more connection, a longer duration of power. But for me, where it really matters most is in low RPM situations. This is where the Honda needs to be calmer. It's very jerky on the throttle. They did a great job with this bike to actually make it easier to ride. And if I can explain it to you guys in a manner out there that haven't ridden one, it's like throwing a flywheel weight on a bike with added throttle response. So for me, this calms the chassis down, and that's what you need in off-road racing. They use STI tires, never have really tried those tires, and nitro mousse tubes. Me and Simon were talking earlier about this thing. I've never actually tried the nitro mousse. I've been on a mousse before, but never tried the nitro mousse. So what Simon and I did, we went out and did some off-road sections here. Glen Helen, they did a lot of endurance racing here recently. They had 10 hours of Glen Helen. Obviously the motocross track's open, so we did a little mixture, a little hybrid of off-road and moto. Now, when you fire this thing up or you take it off the stand, it's heavy. And I'm like, holy crap, this thing is heavy, which isn't a bad thing in off-road racing. A little weight can make more stability. So, okay, take it off the stand, get out there and ride it. And coming out of the pit, I still feel that little jerkiness, like, oh man, this thing's gonna be a little bit too much for me. But man, once I'm out on this, you guys will see it in the video, the rocky sand wash, really controlled, very planted, and for me, very surprising. So I like that feeling. So if you're gonna ride a bike for 2 hours, this Honda is much better. Now, back on the motocross track, when you need to get in those corners and roll your corners nice, that also is a more pleasant experience versus a stock Honda. So with this bike, it's just basically, if I can explain to you guys, it's a longer duration of power, calmer down on the low end, but still a lot of low to mid RPM response, which is, to me, a lot of connection. Also, what I do like about this bike is I can use second gear really long. So the head work Jamie did, along with the Vortex and the mapping that he did, just made second gear really usable. I was in these sand washes here today, and man, I can just leave it in second, cover the clutch a little bit, and just lug my way along those rocks, which is very nice. Hinson did a great job with the clutch system. As you guys know, Honda lacks in clutch feel. You put a Hinson in this thing, much better. Also, WORCS connection levers and bits and pieces on this bike. You guys know WORCS connection Elite Perch, it's like butter. So I'm glad Mark went that way. Also, I want to mention Pro Circuit and the muffler. I've done a couple muffler comparisons back in the day, and I always noticed that the Pro Circuit systems on the Honda gives it less bottom end. And in this case, that's a good thing. So a little bit less touch off low end and just more mid-range. And this is what this bike's all about. Third gear, second gear, very usable. I actually touched fourth at one time, but man, way too fast for me. You guys out there that race WORCS and Big Six, I give you guys credit because man, you guys are hauling ass and this thing will get down the road in a hurry. So overall, the suspension is A-kit level stuff. They work with Showa. So now you're dealing with an A-kit level fork, a bigger shaft in the shock, and you would think it would cause more rigidity. But on the motocross track, it moves a lot. Actually, a little bit too soft for me on the motocross track. But then when talking to the guys over there at SLR, we need that softer feel. You need to speed up that rebound to make those tires follow the ground well. And this is what this bike does well. Maybe a little bit soft initially going up face of the jumps. And if you guys watch the video, you can kind of see how much suspension I am using. But it's a give and take. You got to set this bike up for a wider range of conditions. You got to have stability and you got to have comfort, but yet you need some hold up. Very difficult to do, but the guys over at Showa did an excellent job. This is one of the funner Hondas that I have ridden. I've ridden a couple moto versions that were very violent. I have raced last year at the Nationals on a Honda, and that bike was too fast for me. So pleasantly surprised. Mark Samuels and the guys over there have done a great job. There's a huge IMS tank on here. When I sat on it, I'm like, holy crap, it's gonna be wide. I don't really feel it when I corner. Of course, the added weight, that is a negative for me. With the Honda, with the added weight, I wanna say when you lean, and it's your initial lean in the corner, it is heavy. So once you're in area 2 to area 3, it's no problem. But again, West Coast conditions, we don't got a lot of tight conditions out here. So you want more stability. Again, give and take. I think they found a blend of comfort and performance. I think they did a great job, and Mark Samuels and the guys over at SLR Racing should be commended. Another couple things I want to mention that stood out to me. WORCS Racing, they throw these K-rails in these races. It's insane. What happens is you smash your frame rails or you're hitting some rocks. So Cherubies makes a nice skid plate along with a linkage guard. So if you guys look at this thing, it covers the linkage. So if you're gonna hit something like a K-rail or some rocks, it'll have a tendency to glide over that. It's plastic, it's gonna slide over. It's not aluminum where it catches, causes friction, and really could do some stiction. This is plastic, it glides over nice. Look at, I'm not talented enough to go over K-rails. I've done it, it's not pretty, and I would want this on there. So for me, I would need that. Another thing I wanna mention, like I mentioned earlier, is I haven't tried STI tires. I'll be straight up with you guys, not a huge fan of these tires. So what I do feel from these tires, especially I'm a front end steering guy, I almost feel like my tire is square. Like I got a contact patch, but then when I go to give it another initial lean, it just kind of slides away. It's not really consistent for me. So I really had to focus in on getting in the corner good, standing up, and then sitting down and transferring my weight. Unlike other tires I've tried, I can start my lean early. Tough for me to do, at least with this front tire. I will say the rear tire for me has lots of cushion, good traction, but again, I need a real sticky front tire. The STI front tire just doesn't do it for me, but the Nitro Moose has a good feel. Never ridden with those before. There's lots of square edge here at Glen Helen. So the mousse actually gives you a dead feeling. This nitro mousse, and I like that. So when you hit them, you hit these square edges, it doesn't really react. It just kind of plows through it. So very cool feeling for me. And of course, West Coast off-road, that's all there is. Square edge, curbs, hack. You need something that's dead and just kind of drives through it and gives you some more cushion. Good job with the guys at Nitro Mousse. Otherwise, the cockpit feels nice. Handguards, not a fan of handguards. I'm a moto guy, but don't really notice it when I'm out riding. So for me, like, overall looks of the motorcycle is key as well. They do a nice, clean job with this. And Mark Samuels, he knows what he's doing. He's been doing it for a minute, right? So he knows how to set up an off-road bike. So look forward to riding some more off-road Hondas in the future. And if you guys want to, go subscribe to RacerX. We have a magazine. It's cool. It's not that expensive. You might get a free t-shirt. Go read some stuff. And always go to racerxonline.com for more tests, any racing info, lots of cool stuff, lots of Weege. Who doesn't like Weege? Weege is a good dude, you know? I'll see you guys in the next one. See you later.